Hi and a warm welcome. I'm Niels from Keep It Green and today I want to talk to you about permaculture. Permaculture is an alternative style of using the land, in which we try to use as many synergies as possible, so that different plants and other components can benefit from each other. Since that is pretty difficult, it is important to plan carefully, and that is exactly what we will do today. As an example, let's take this garden that has suffered a lot under the last flooding and transform it into a permacultural oasis. First of all, we need a map of the garden. You can either draw it by hand or use Google Maps. On this map, you can capture all existing structures. In our example, we already have 2 apple trees, a big cherry tree, 1 willow, countless bushes and shrubs, a massive concrete shed, and lots of stone and gravel in the front part of the garden. One of the most important steps in the planning of your permaculture is to always know when and where the sun is shining. You can find countless websites that can help you with that. I put a link in the description. Here you can look up the angle of the sun during summer and winter solstice, the longest and the shortest day of the year. Then you can mark the sunrise and sunset of both solstices on your map. We already see that the northwestern wall casts no shadow nearly all year long, but the southeastern wall does, and so does the apple and the cherry tree. The widow tree blocks important evening sun, especially during the cold winter days. The front end of the garden only receives sun during summer and stays shaded during the winter. Maybe you are already very familiar with your garden and know where the sun rises and sets, but it can still be a good idea to look up your summer and winter solstice position, and it can still lead to some interesting surprises. Besides the sun, it is mostly water and temperature that indicate what you can grow at your garden. Luckily, there are numerous climate charts available. But mind that under the climate crisis, extreme weather events like droughts are increasing, even in water-rich countries like Germany. In our small home garden, we can fall back on manual watering. Therefore, it is of critical importance to have sufficient water storage available. At the moment, we have 5 water tanks with a capacity of 1,000 liters each. 1 at the shed, 2 at the entrance of the garden, and 2 at the far back of the garden. Sadly, those 5,000 liters are quickly used up during a summer drought, and we want to prevent using tap water if we can. Therefore, I would place an additional 10,000 liter water tank in the western corner of the garden, where it can capture the water from the roof next to it. Here our tank is on the shadiest place in the garden and leaves the sunny spots for our plants. The list of parameters is endless, and the more data you collect, the better. But if you only have a small project and you have no fable for desk research, you don't need to overdo it. It helps to ask friends and neighbors about the plants they grow in their garden, to find out what is and what isn't growing well in your region. The planning I show you is not perfect, because there is no perfect permaculture. Every project is different, and our example is an urban gardening project with lots of walls around it that is completely flat. If you have slopes in your garden, it offers a whole range of new possibilities. It is very important to not just focus on what you can do in your permaculture, but also what you want to do. Imagine permaculture like a toolbox. First of all, you need to find the right tool that you can and want to use. And that is exactly what we will start with now. First of all, you should think about long-term components and not your vegetable garden. Most important in my garden would be a tasty food forest. The concept is a little complicated, but I will put a video about it in the description. The basic idea is to create a forest with different vegetational layers. That means trees, shrubs, herbs and so on. Those plants can then support each other and provide us with food. It is some work to construct, but worth it. Online you can find lots of information about plants that live together in such beneficial plant guilds. We can, for example, take a young pear tree and underplant it with bush beans or peas. Those are edible and store nitrogen in the soil, which helps the tree to grow. To deter root voles, you can plant some narcissus or daffodils. Next, I want a greenhouse for sensitive plants and as a nursery. I would also like to have some open water, like a pond. This adds a new microclimate to the garden, and I could grow some water plants or fish. And maybe it is large enough for a swimming pond. Of course, I still need a cozy area to sit and relax, somewhere where I can meet with friends and start a barbecue. Lastly, I would love to have some chickens, and not just because of the eggs. They produce a valuable manure and have the incredible ability to devour masses of problematic insects and slugs. If you want to know more about how you can keep chickens and how to start, check out our guidebook about it. I will put a link of it in the description. Now we have to think about how large those components are and where we should put them. If we randomly place them in the garden, we will quickly run into problems. Therefore, we should take our time to plan it out carefully. Let's start with the food forest. It can grow rather tall, so I would place it in the back end of the garden. Here it can cast no long shadows on the other parts of the garden. Only the cherry tree could become problematic, since it takes up much space and bears no edible fruit, as it is a flowering cherry. We should always try to incorporate existing trees, but since this tree is in bad shape and we want to focus on food production, it might need to go. The northern apple tree can stay. It yields good fruits and we can easily integrate it into our food forest. For the tree layer in the food forest, we should use semi-dwarf fruit trees and just a few tall nut trees. Thereby we can fit numerous trees on a pretty small space. The relaxing area I can place pretty central in the shadow of the southern apple tree. I can also use this place to make my own biochar that helps me to improve the fertility of my garden permanently. If you want to know more about it, I will put a few links in the description. The greenhouse needs a warm spot also during winter. Therefore we look for a sunny place that we find on the western wall of the garden. Besides offering a sunny spot, the stone wall heats up during the day and keeps the warmth during the night. This helps us to survive cold night frosts. Sadly, we have a problem with the widow tree. It blocks important evening sun during late autumn. Therefore, we should prune it short in mid-autumn to let the sun shine through. If we place the pond in front of the greenhouse, it can reflect the flat-angled winter sun into the greenhouse and help to heat it up. Now let's turn to the chicken. I would like to let them scavenge through the food forest and my garden beds after harvest. Here they can eat all the insects and harvest leftovers that they like while fertilizing the soil. So a spot on the edge of the food forest seems ideal. Thereby I can also place the chicken shed directly on the northern side of the greenhouse. During winter, the body heat of the chicken will help to keep the greenhouse warm. Maybe you see now how the single components start to interconnect with each other. For inspirational input, it can be helpful to visit some existing permacultures or look up some books on the topic. One of the most important but also most fun steps comes now. What can I still add? I would like to grow some annual vegetables, so I need some garden beds. The front part of the garden is covered with stones and gravel, and I haven't decided what to do about it yet. Either I excavate it or I put some high beds on it. So, what do you think about it? Any ideas are highly welcomed. Please leave a comment under the video. Where are white spots on the map? Do you still have any unused areas? Here you can be very creative. Do you still have space available under trees? Are there places that are always in the shade where you might be able to grow mushrooms? If you're interested in that, you guessed it, there will be a link in the description. Are there any free walls on which vines like kiwi could grow? Are there unused resources? As an example, I still have a huge pile of rubble stone laying around. Those we can use to build a herb spiral next to the pond. Of course, you should not miss a composter. Especially a worm composter delivers a nutrient-rich fertilizer with numerous microorganisms. What about a chicken enclosure? Is there just plain grass growing? At 2 meters high you could rank some grapevines over it. This way you can harvest ripe grapes while falling fruits will be eaten by your chicken. It is very important to be always ready to change your plans if new information is emerging. This video only lasts about 10 minutes, but it took several days of preparation and we adapted it multiple times. And in the end, have fun doing it. Don't be too critical with yourself. There is no need to start a permaculture with negative emotions. If you want to know how we went from the theoretical into the practical planning, here's the second part of this video. If you want to stay up to date, please subscribe our channel here. And if you want to read more about permaculture, you can look at our website here.